Hi, hey, hello, how's it going? It's Emily. And today we're going to be reading some books that I drew for during my TBR game. So if you haven't watched that, be sure to watch that. Instead of drawing prompts, I have a Formula One inspired TBR board game. And instead of drawing prompts, I drew numbers that corresponded with wrapped and numbered books on my TBR, and then I would unwrap them. And we're going to read some of the books that I drew for my TBR game today. Some of them fit into other vlog plans, and some of them I figured could just go together as one vlog of me reading some of my TBR from my TBR game. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a couple of fairy loots and lessons in chemistry as well. So we're going to start with The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Amelie Wenzel. And this one has been so fun so far. I'm in the ballpark of halfway through, and we're following our main character, An Ying. And in this world, the divide between this realm with demons, and the realm with humans isn't secure. And so demons have been kind of coming into the human lands and wreaking havoc, essentially. And she used to sew and kind of be into that, but now really she's just training and trying to figure out how she can help her mother. Now, her father died in the process of trying to protect her mother from one of these demons. Demons can actually suck the soul out of humans, and although that's not necessarily literally how they survive, they enjoy doing it. And so her father died in the process of trying to protect her mother from this demon attack, and he succeeded in stopping the demon from fully taking the soul out of our main character's mother, but her mother is kind of half there. She doesn't really know what's going on. She's not really very responsive. And her father died as I said, in this attack. And so she has gone to get these night blossoms so that she can help her mother. It at least helps a little bit. But really what she needs is help from the immortal realm. And so she has heard of a caravan to go to this place where she can hopefully train in this, train kind of in a military sense, but also train magic to be able to help fight these demons. And so she's going to this place in the immortal realm, and in this process comes across our other main character, who is joining her in this process and both competing in the immortality trials. So the immortality trials, every year, the immortal realm kind of allows people in to compete in the immortality trials. And there are these 8 immortal gods, and one person will be selected by each god to get the gift of immortality, essentially. And so she really needs this for her mother, because what she'll be able to receive if she is selected by one of these gods is what's going to help truly restore her mother's soul. And so she's competing in these trials in order to do that. And I love a good set of trials in a book. So that's always very entertaining for me. I love anticipating the next trial, training and planning for the next trial, the twists and turns that can happen during a trial. So getting there is part of the first trial. They encounter a lot of demons. She's learning a little bit more about her travel companion. They get to the immortal realm and continue competing in these trials, and each of the gods are kind of testing a different aspect of their character, whether it be physical strength or courage or control over their mind, or they're testing different things. And so I'm excited to see how the different trials will test those things and how different the trials will be. The first 2 had definitely an overlap of similar elements or things happening during the trial, so I'm hoping we'll get a bit more variety in some of the trials, but I'm definitely excited to continue. There definitely have been some twists and turns with the group of people competing, and some animosity between different people towards our main character or towards other characters. And so there definitely is a lot of dynamics going on between the group of people who are competing, which has been fun to watch. So I'm having a good time. I don't know, I'm having a good time with this one so far. Definitely excited, as I said, to continue seeing what these trials are all about and see how our character does and see how her relationship changes with our other main character and how that develops. So yeah, I'm having a good time, but I just wanted to go ahead and open this vlog. And yeah, we'll continue with this one. I think we'll probably do a Forgery of Fate next because that is due to the library very soon, or the audiobook is due to the library very soon. I have all of these checked out on audio from the library, so I want to make sure to kind of put these earlier rather than later so I can make sure I return all these audiobooks on time. So I think we're going to do a Forgery of Fate next and then Lessons in Chemistry, but very excited to continue the Scorpion and the Night Blossom. So far, so good. So I have finished the Scorpion and the Night Blossom. I had a really fun time with this one. I was enjoying what was going on, especially in the last third of the story. And I don't know, yeah, just having a really good time with it. I was enjoying our characters and the politics of what's going on. I will say there are probably some things about the main character that might annoy people. So if these things annoy you, this one might not be for you. So we learn very quickly that the person who is, that she's going to the Immortal Lands with, that's kind of her companion along the way, is half demon, half mortal. And, since demons are the ones who killed her father and put her mother in the situation that she's in, she hates demons, even half demons. And there's not really, it wasn't really thought to be possible to have a half demon. And so there's a lot of conversations about him being a halfling and her feelings about that and how everyone else treats him because of that, like once it's found out, or, like the risk of what could happen if that's found out. And so there are a lot of conversation about that, and she wants to hate him because of who he is. So there's a lot of conversations about that. So if that annoys you, maybe not for you. She's also saved by male main characters, or two male main characters in particular. She is saved by them quite a lot. And so there are a fair number of situations that she gets out of because of the men that are around her. And again, something that might not be something that everyone loves. I'm very willing to let an author take me for her ride. And so it didn't particularly bother me, but just something to note in case that does kind of aggravate you. But I was having a fun time with this one, and I'm definitely intrigued to see where things go, what we're setting up for in the second book, and how that politics is happening. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued, and I could definitely see myself reading the next one. So I have also started a Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim, and having a wonderful time with this one. I love her writing and her world building and her characters so much. She does a slow burn really, really well, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I don't know if you can tell very easily there, but I'm a solid chunk in. So we're following True, and she lives with her mom and three sisters. Her father, when she and her sisters were younger, went off to what was supposed to be this kind of last job, and he was supposed to return by the winter, and his ship was lost at sea. He never returned, and he's presumed dead. And, she has always hoped that there might be a way that he's still alive, but she's kind of long since given up hope. And her mother has never been the same since then. So really her focus since then has been to take care of her two sisters and provide for them. The way she does this is by forging artwork. So she's not necessarily copying a particular piece, but she's taking the style of an artist and learning to mimic the style of an artist and then painting something and trying to pass it off as an old work of theirs that was kind of lost to time and has since been found, but is still a genuine piece of, supposedly a genuine piece of art that that artist created. So she'll pick a dead artist, learn their style, and then make some piece, and then say, she works with someone to help her with this, and then they split the money that they make from selling these paintings once they're deemed authentic. And so, the most nerve-wracking part is going to the authenticator and having them deem the painting authentic. But anyway, so she's learning to mimic the style of these artists. She also will get visions sometimes. So this isn't what she paints, but she will sometimes get visions and can paint the future or paint things that are going to happen. And anyway, so her mom, since her father presumably died, again, has not been the same. She has racked up a lot of gambling debt. And the person that she owes this money to runs a brothel type house and is threatening to take her sister to work at said house to pay off the debts that her mom owes her. Obviously not something that she wants for her very, very young sister. And so she is doing whatever she can. She has a lot of money to get to make sure that that doesn't happen. And so what she does is create an original painting of a dragon. She's trying to sell it. Through this process, she ends up on the property of someone who turns out to be a dragon prince who has been exiled from his home and is trying to get back in. So he wants to get back in and kind of topple the people who are in charge and take over politically. And so he promises her to take care of her family if she will marry him and go to the dragon realm with him. So the marriage is important because since he's been exiled, he can't get back in. But one of the loopholes around this is if he's married. Anyway, it's situation. So situation, she needs to marry him in order to protect her family and for him to get what he wants. And so they're going to the dragon realm, which is underwater. So that's kind of fun. And so she's needs to take this tonic every day to make sure she can live underwater. But she's getting to know the dragon realm a little bit, and she needs to paint. One of the things that he wants her to do, and one of the reasons he chose her, is because he, for reasons that he won't necessarily say, but is presumably part of his scheme, wants her to paint, have a painting of the dragon in charge, and that he wants to topple. And so, anyway, it's been fun. I love Elizabeth Lem's books. As I said, I love her storytelling, her characters, her world building. Her writing is so good, and her slow burn. So of course they don't particularly like each other at first, and it's just a marriage of convenience so that they can both get things out of this. But yeah, anyway, it's so good. And so once she's going underwater to the dragon realm, of course, I'm assuming we'll see a different side to him, and they'll start to warm up to each other, and we'll see what happens. But I'm having such a fun time with this one, and I just absolutely know I would. So it's good to know that expectations are meeting reality. You know what I mean? So let me clarify, actually. So the deal that he has with her, so he's going to protect her family, make sure that they're okay, make sure they have the resources they need. And the words and protections that I was mentioning are to keep mortals out, to keep humans out. But the only way she can get in is by marrying a dragon prince. So someone married to a dragon can get into the dragon realm. And he needs her to paint this painting, again, for mysterious, he doesn't say why reasons. And so he needs her to come along to make sure that she can paint this painting. And in order to do that, they need to marry. But, a condition for his return is that he needs to marry or fall in love with a human in order to be accepted back into the dragon realm. And so both of these, in order to convince them that they're in love, that's also a part of why the marriage there is is on the table. Anyway, just wanted to make sure that actually made sense. But yeah, I'm, again, thoroughly enjoying this one. So I have finished A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim. This might be my favorite Elizabeth Lim so far. I absolutely adored every second of this. I still need to read her debut duology, the Spend the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk duology. I still need to read those. So I need to go back and do that. But I've read all of her other books and have absolutely loved every single one. Just her world building, her characters, just the whimsy of her worlds. And her characters, again, are just so charming. I absolutely love them. And I love this one so much. So I kind of gave the general description and talked about her going to the Dragon Realm to paint this painting. And you figure out why that's so important. But, he wants her to paint this painting, needs her to go with him to do that. And so hence why the marriage is necessary, so that she can actually travel to the Dragon Realm. Another aspect to this here as well, and why it kind of ties into the beginning where she loses her father, is that it's, if her father is going to be anywhere, this is kind of the area where his ship was lost. And so, if there's going to be anywhere she can find answers, this is at least one place to do that. So that's another reason that she wants to go down there as well. But yeah, I loved her going to the Dragon Realm, trying to figure out who she can trust and get her bearings there. That was fun. And, them starting to have a little bit of tension and, trying to get to know each other more in the Dragon Realm because they need to present themselves as husband and wife. And I don't know, I love all the mythology elements that she pulls in. I find the main character so charming. I always love a good dragon in a story. Literally, say a dragon's in it and I probably want to read it. And so, so much fun. This would also be a super fun one in the summer since it is so water focused. So this could be a fun one for the summer. But anyway, I absolutely love this. And I also love seeing the connections between, so this is a standalone and you don't need to read any of her other books to read this. I feel like you can get a good understanding and follow along just by reading this, but I do appreciate seeing the connections to particularly one of her other books, but it's kind of tied to all of the rest of the 4 books that she published after her original duology are kind of in the Six Crimson Cranes world. So there's the Six Crimson Cranes duology, and then there's another, Her Radiant Curse, another standalone that's set in that world. So this one, you can particularly see the connection to that other standalone, but you're seeing the connections between some of the books in this world, and I just really appreciate that. I know I always find that so fun when an author ties together different books and kind of makes a universe out of them, even if they can be read individually. But yeah, I absolutely loved this one and would highly recommend. So I have also been reading Lessons in Chemistry. This is by Bonnie Garmis, and this one has definitely been interesting. It's not my preferred writing style, but this is just a personal preference thing. This is not to say the book is poorly written or anything. It's just not my preferred writing style. It's a very detached writing style is kind of how I would describe it, which again is just not what I prefer. But we're following Elizabeth Zott. And she is a chemist and has had a lot of struggles being a woman in STEM. She's honestly gone through some pretty awful stuff. And I don't like a detached writing style because it kind of prevents me from feeling that. You know what I mean? But she goes through some really awful stuff and goes through some awful stuff in academia. She has a master's, wanted to pursue a PhD, but some things had happened that ultimately made her decide against pursuing a PhD. Not because she didn't want to, but what she was facing was a lot. And so at the beginning of the story, we do know that we kind of start with her starting to go on this cooking show, or starting to be the star of this cooking show. And so we know that that's ultimately kind of where things head. And then we go back 10 years. So we go back to her reminiscing on her education. She's currently working at a research place called Hastings. Is it Hastings Research Company or something? And so she has pursued that master. She's doing research for this company. She has an awful boss who's incredibly sexist. And just, yeah, downright awful. And she does have one thing going for her, though, and that is someone else at this company that she comes across because she is stealing some beakers from him, because she needs some beakers, has been trying to get and request some beakers to be able to pursue her research, and hasn't been able to get any. And so she's just fed up and ends up taking some from one of the researchers who has an excess supply of beakers because she doesn't know what else to do. They end up falling in love, and so we kind of follow that process. He's teaching her to row. You know, they're kind of starting a life together. They haven't married, but they're living together, kind of starting to have a life together that they've woven. And unfortunately, he passes away, and then soon after that, she finds out she's pregnant. So she is pregnant out of wedlock and going to be a single mother, facing being a single mother. And so she and her husband, she and this other researcher had kind of been perceived as just kind of these crazy, off-the-wall people for what they believed. And for example, one of the things that she believes is that it's unfair that she is fired from Hastings after they find out that she's pregnant, because you're having a child out of wedlock. Like, we have standards here, and they fire her. But obviously, if her husband were still, I keep saying husband, they're not married. But, you know, if her partner had still been alive, he absolutely would not have been fired. That's crazy. Why would you think he would be fired? And she's like, well, it takes two people to make a child. I just happen to be the one carrying said child, but it takes two people. We both did the same thing. How is it fair that I'm the one fired and he wouldn't have been fired? You know what I mean? So they're perceived as crazy for having these kinds of beliefs, which of course is just infuriating. And so, you know, she's gone through a lot of stuff. You're kind of feeling what she's going through to some degree, at least as much as I can, given the writing style. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. And so we know that she is pregnant, unemployed, and going to need to try to find something, and, you know, facing being a single mother through all that. And so, you know, she needs to find what is going to be happening next and what her life is going to look like. And so, you know, ultimately we know that she pursues starring in this cooking channel. She does love to cook and has a different approach to it based on her background in chemistry. And so that's where that unique take on being the host of a cooking show is going to come in. So I'm excited to see that part. It not being my preferred writing style is not stopping me from ultimately wanting to continue and see what happens. I am wanting to see this character grow and develop, and like what happens to her next, and see the effects of this cooking show on her and other people. Like, I want to keep going for sure. So that's my thoughts so far on Lessons in Chemistry. I will come back either once I've read more or once I've finished it. We'll see when I next have some more thoughts on it. So here to wrap up this vlog, I have finished Lessons in Chemistry, and I did get a bit more used to the writing style. It's still not my preferred writing style, but I did get a bit more used to it. One thing that still I didn't like throughout the book, though, was when she would take the perspective of the dog. So Elizabeth Zott has a dog in here, a super smart dog, actually based on the author's dog that she had. But sometimes she would go into the narrative like, from the perspective of this dog, which would just kind of happen randomly sometimes here and there, and just seemed and felt kind of weird, took me out of the story. I don't think it really added much. Like, I don't know why we need the perspective of the dog. I felt like all of that could have been accomplished through other characters, and we can see how smart this dog is. We don't need the dog's perspective to know that this is a really smart dog. Anyway, so that just kind of felt kind of weird and took me out of the story a little bit, as I said. But anyway, I can definitely understand criticisms of our main character just kind of feeling untouchable and not really growing or changing in the story. But part of the thing, too, is that it wasn't really her that needed to change. Like, she is very stubborn and headstrong in her convictions and wasn't really the one that needed to change. But I can understand people just feeling like she's this just untouchable, unflawed character and just kind of makes her feel a little unrealistic. I can definitely see that. I can definitely see this feeling very preachy. Like, this is not subtle at all. We're not going for subtlety here. And some people appreciate the messages in the books that they read to be more subtle. And if that's your preference, great. This might not be something you enjoy because it is definitely, definitely not subtle. So, definitely some things that felt convenient or things that just kind of worked out. And I don't feel like maybe realistically would have, but there's still just something so charming about Elizabeth. And I really enjoyed the process of her, starting to do this cooking show and the bonds that she was able, so eventually they had a studio audience able to come in as well and do that during filming, like have the live audience during filming. So her interactions with some of the audience that was there live was great. Her inspiring some other people to do things that maybe they had never really thought were possible. So that was really fun to see, and just kind of the impact that she had, not just on the live studio audience, but other people watching as well. And her just having fun doing her own thing and having that as a space for herself to do a lot of different things. So I really enjoyed the element of her having this cooking show. It felt like it was a smaller part or smaller percentage of the book than I thought it would be, because we do spend a lot of time going over her backstory and how she kind of got up to that moment. So it definitely felt like less of the book than I thought it would, but again, there's still just something so charming about Elizabeth as a main character, and I do feel like it'd be fun to watch the show. If you've watched the show, let me know. Or if you've read the book and watched the show, how do they compare? Did you like one more than the other? Do you feel like the adaptation was a pretty good adaptation, either true to the book or did something that made it a good adaptation for you, or maybe you didn't like it as an adaptation? I would love to know, because I'm thinking about adding it to our long list of things to watch, an ever-growing list of things to watch. But anyway, that is going to be it for this vlog, and we definitely have some other fun ones coming up. There's Magical Readathon, there's my birthday, there are a bunch of vlog plans to be had, so be sure to subscribe for more bookish content. I will link my Instagram down below. I've been active there recently. I will also leave my Etsy store with a few random designs on it. And then I'll also link my Pango store if you'd like to browse my Pango store for used books. And I will also leave more information below about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.